I enjoy scaring people a lot.
There are only a handful of movies which can claim they altered the trajectory of cinema history. One of them is a low-budget passion project about a killer stalking babysitters. John Carpenter's Halloween changed the shape of horror, defining the slasher genre and establishing a potent new recipe for low-budget filmmaking. This is how they shot it.
You know, it's Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare, huh?
Yes, sir. Nice seeing you, sir.
The only thing scarier than a Carpenter film is missing a StudioBinder video. So subscribe and click the bell to stay up to date on all things filmmaking. Time to unmask a classic. Halloween is a 1978 horror film directed by John Carpenter, who co-wrote the script with his producer, Deborah Hill. It marked a watershed moment in horror cinema. Though it wasn't without precedent, films from earlier in the 70s, like The Exorcist and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, showed that horror could be visceral and intense, and yet still have blockbuster returns. The slasher genre, too, was beginning to take form. 1960's Psycho was an early iteration. And Bob Clark's Black Christmas in 1974 further refined elements which would become familiar. Meanwhile, Carpenter was just beginning to cut his teeth as a filmmaker. He studied at USC and was deeply influenced by Golden Age director Howard Hawks, who made lean films that didn't rely on showy camera work or spectacle.
That's the second time you hit me. Don't ever do it again.
Carpenter then directed the low-budget sci-fi romp Dark Star and the harrowing thriller Assault on Precinct 13.
2 cops wishing me luck. I'm doomed.
Neither film was a big hit, but their positive reception got the attention of executive producer Irwin Yablans, who had the idea of a low-budget horror movie about babysitters getting stalked on Halloween night.
I want to do a horror film. So I started to think about how to do this for the limited amount of money we had. And it occurred to me that if we did a movie about babysitters, it would work because everybody had either been a babysitter or been a baby.
The idea piqued Carpenter's interest, and he reached a deal where he received complete creative control and $10,000 to write, direct, and score the film, plus 10% of the profits. With that, they dove into development and pre-production. Carpenter and another producer on the film, Deborah Hill, wrote the screenplay. They turned Yablin's idea into a story about an unstoppable evil force, while Hill worked to ground it with realistic characters.
I was a babysitter, and I knew what it was like to be, all those characters. And so I really contributed the girl dialogue.
Carpenter explains why he wanted to work with Hill.
She was really bright and really knowledgeable about low-budget filmmaking. She was one of the first female producers like this, and especially difficult in those days. She was a trailblazer.
The budget for the film was approximately $300,000, extremely low, even for the time. This meant pre-production was primarily focused on ways to save money, while not compromising the vision for the project. Casting was particularly crucial, since they needed to find actors who could bring attention to the film, but not come with a large price tag. For the star, Deborah Hill came up with the idea for Jamie Lee Curtis, who was linked to horror royalty. Hill explains, "I knew casting Jamie Lee would be great publicity for the film because her mother was in Psycho." Still, Curtis was far from famous in her own right, so she was only paid $8,000. Donald Pleasance, meanwhile, required the most funds, but the team saw him as worth the price tag for his gravitas and credibility.
I was a huge fan of Donald. Have been, again, since I was a kid.
You're all right?
Yes, I'm okay.
He's gone. He's gone from here. The evil is gone.
Nick Castle, who played the adult Michael Myers, was on the other end of the spectrum, making just $25 a day. For costumes, most of the actors wore their own clothes, and some additional outfits were bought at JCPenney for around $100. Tommy Lee Wallace, who worked as production designer, art director, location scout, and co-editor, had to create the Myers mask for cheap.
John assigned me the task of finding some choices for the Halloween mask. And I picked up two that looked like really good, legit choices. One was an Emmett Kelly mask. Emmett Kelly was a classic clown with a big red nose, stupid hair, and a big smile, big blue smile on his face. And I thought, how frightening, how grotesque.
But it was the second choice, a William Shatner mask that Wallace altered to have pale skin and larger, dark eyes, which won everyone over.
Came out with the other mask, and a cold chill ran up everybody's spine. It was so scary looking. It was so demented, it was so sick that we knew we had it.
In the end, the iconic mask cost less than $2. The same thrifty and creative ethos carried over to production. The crew was small and young. Jamie Lee Curtis recalled, "Everyone on that set was 19, 20, 21, and it was mostly men. It was just these people and then everyone's girlfriends doing makeup, wardrobe, set dressing." Filming took place in the spring of 1978 in South Pasadena, California, though the goal was to have it pass as suburban Illinois in October. Because of the limited budget, the crew reused fake leaves painted in fall colours and scattered them across each location they filmed at. Most of the props were built from supplies people already owned, and the Halloween night extras were simply local families with their kids. Carpenter insisted on shooting in Panavision widescreen to give the movie a cinematic look to belie its small budget. One crucial piece of equipment that was heavily utilised was the Panaglide, Panavision's version of the Steadicam. Director of photography Dean Cundy notes, "John and I both realised that using Steadicam on Halloween was going to give this film the great creepy and mysterious feeling because we could glide along following these characters without ever giving away the camera movement. We knew this would make Halloween a distinctive film, and because of that, we knew that by using it, it would only immerse audiences even more into this terrifying story." It was a relatively new piece of technology, so it was a large chunk of the film's limited funds at $70,000, and the crew learned how to use it on the fly. Nevertheless, the Panaglide allowed for long, suspenseful takes, including the film's iconic opening, a scene which strained the resources of the small team. Deborah Hill explains.
We set up so that we would start in the front of the house and we would actually go all the way through, cruise in the window, see them kissing, go through the back of the house, open up the drawer, pick out the knife, and by the way, those are my hands. And then we would go in through the living room and up the steps and into the bedroom. And while we were up there shooting that scene, downstairs, all the electricians and grips were running around crazy trying to reset the lights for when we turned around and came back through the house.
Carpenter's directions with actors were as streamlined and utilitarian as his camera work. With Curtis, he would give her directions based on a fear meter. She recalls him saying, "Here's about a 7, here's about a 6, and the scene we're going to shoot tonight is about a 9.5. With Castle, he was even more straightforward.
I basically asked the actor question, what is my motivation? And he said, your motivation is to walk from this point to the end point and roll.
This directness was crucial for a breakneck 20-day shoot. Arguably, the most effective scares came in post, where Carpenter composed his iconic score in just 3 days. When they saw the movie without its music, producers were worried it wasn't frightening enough. With music, they no longer had that concern. Needless to say, the ultra-indie production resulted in a sensation far outsizing its creators' wildest expectations. Like with every other stage, the film had little money to spend on advertising, but positive word of mouth spread like wildfire.
Halloween, the night he came home. Rated R.
By the end of its legendary theatrical run, Halloween had grossed $47 million domestically and $23 million internationally, making it the most successful independent film of all time until The Blair Witch Project, 2 decades later.
I am so sorry.
And with its success, Halloween solidified the arrival of the slasher genre. Tropes like the final girl and a theme song for the killer became hallmarks of the genre. And franchises like A Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th used many filmmaking techniques employed by Carpenter. The beauty of Halloween is that it's deceptively simple. Taking from his idol Howard Hawks, Carpenter's style has few frills, hitting the audience with blunt force scares. It may seem easy, but no one's quite been able to replicate it since.
Jesus. Are you all right?
The story of Halloween is one which has countless lessons for aspiring filmmakers, regardless of their preferred genre. Almost all filmmakers have to start small. Halloween shows that that doesn't need to be limiting.
Well, kiddo, thought you outgrew superstition.
As Dean Cundy notes, I like smaller indie films because you get to be completely creative. And because of the challenge of the budget, you have to be creative on that level. Ready to get creative? Get started with StudioBinder's pre-production software, which includes scripts, storyboards, shot lists, and more, all in one place. Until next time, remember to lock your doors.
I'm scared! Do as I say! Hurry!